Carlos was the kind of man people called dependable, charming, predictable, and always on time. But in the final few months before everything fell apart, something in him shifted. It started so subtly, I almost missed it. Almost. You ever look back at something and wonder how the hell you didn't see it sooner? That's where I'm at now, replaying old conversations, glancing through old texts, and wondering when exactly I started losing my husband. His name's Carlos. He's 36. I'm Marisol, 34. We've been married for 5 years, together for 8. We met working at the same health clinic back when I was still in school. He was in IT, I was answering phones part-time. Our friendship started with jokes about the busted printer and daily trash talk over cafeteria coffee. 2 years later, we were living together. People always described Carlos as solid, grounded, never raised his voice, always paid bills on time, took care of things before being asked. It's what I loved about him. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't the loudest person in the room, but he noticed the little things, like when I stopped eating peanut butter because it made my stomach hurt, or how I hated movie trailers that gave away too much. He used to brush my hair out of my face when I read in bed. We used to be that couple, the one you assume has it all figured out. Our friends joked we were boring in the best way, but it wasn't boring. It was peaceful, until it wasn't. It started with the travel. Carlos works in consulting, mostly healthcare systems, tech transitions, data audits. Sometimes his job takes him to other cities for a few days, maybe once a month. That was always normal. But last spring, the trips started increasing. First, it was every other week, then every week, sometimes 2 or 3 days, sometimes longer. He'd say things like, "They're trying to scale the new system statewide, so I need to be there in person." Or, "There's a problem with the clinic in Seattle. I have to go meet with their admin team." At first, I believed him. I mean, why wouldn't I? But then I noticed something strange. He stopped being tired when he got home. You'd think someone flying across the state twice a week would come home exhausted. But he didn't. He came back lighter, almost refreshed, and his texts from the road were short, mechanical, like they were copy-pasted. "Long day. Just got back to the hotel. Dinner with the team, heading to bed soon. Flight delayed. I'll be home late. No emojis. No miss you." Carlos used to always throw in a little heart or say something dumb like, "Don't burn the house down without me." Now it was just updates. I mentioned it once casually, like, "Hey, you've been gone a lot lately. Is this a new phase with work?" He smiled, kissed my forehead. "Just temporary. I'll get more balance soon, I promise." It wasn't the words. It was how quickly he said them. Too fast, too smooth. A month later, I noticed his suitcase was always packed differently. Carlos used to ask me where his dress socks were, or if I'd seen his cologne. But now it was like he didn't need help anymore. Like his bag was always ready. He also stopped forgetting things. Carlos used to forget stuff all the time. Chargers, toothpaste, a belt. I'd get texts like, "Babe, can you send a pic of my work ID?" Or, "I left my dress shoes in the closet. Any chance you can Uber them to the airport?" But not anymore. He was too prepared, too polished. I told my best friend, Rena, over drinks at our usual bar in Spokane. She listened without interrupting, then just tilted her head and said, "You think he's cheating?" The words hit harder than I thought they would. I blinked. "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to," she said. "Your voice did." To be clear, I didn't want to believe that. Carlos had never given me a reason not to trust him. We had our share of fights over money, time, holidays with family, but cheating? That was never even in the conversation. But once the thought was there, I couldn't unsee the signs. One night, he came home and went straight to showering. Nothing unusual. Except he didn't kiss me hello. Just mumbled, "1 sec," and shut the bathroom door. It was the way he said it, like he didn't want me to smell him. Like he needed to rinse something off before seeing me. I sat there on the couch, TV still playing in the background, staring at the closed door. And that was the moment the switch flipped. I couldn't ignore it anymore. A few days later, I checked his car. I know how that sounds, but I had to know if I was losing my mind. I didn't find anything shocking. No lipstick-stained napkins, no strange clothes, but the passenger seat was pushed far back, and there was an empty water bottle wedged in the floorboard, an expensive brand he didn't drink. Something about it felt placed, like someone else had been there. I didn't confront him, not yet. Instead, I started taking notes. Not obsessively, just details. Flight dates, hotel names, his exact words when he told me where he was going. I started paying attention the way you do when you're about to take a test on something no one warned you to study for. Then, there was the night he called me by the wrong name. We were half asleep, curled up on the couch, and he mumbled, "Tiff? I mean Mari." I played it off. Didn't even sit up. Just gave a quiet, "Hmm?" He said nothing. I could feel his whole body go tense. I stayed silent, because I didn't want him to know that name burned into my mind like a warning. Short for Tiffany? The next week, I checked our shared credit card statement. There it was. A dinner charge in Seattle on a day he said he was in Boise. The restaurant was called Marina's. I Googled it. Romantic Italian place. White tablecloths. Candlelit. I called and asked casually if they did private bookings or if their tables were for couples. The hostess said, "Oh, you must be calling about the corner booth. Carlos's favorite. He comes in with his partner a lot." My chest went cold. I hung up. I sat with that for a while. Didn't cry, didn't call Rena. I just stared at the wall for a long time. Because now it wasn't a suspicion. It was a fact. Carlos wasn't just tired from work. He was somewhere else, with someone else. And I needed to know how far it went. People think cheating happens in a single moment, like one big, explosive mistake. But that's not how it works. At least, not for me. For me, it happened in whispers and half smiles and excuses that almost made sense. It happened in the space between "I love you" and "I'm busy right now." And by the time I realized how deep it went, I'd already been living in a version of our marriage that only existed in my head. I didn't confront Carlos right away. Mostly because I wanted to believe there was still another explanation. I told myself the restaurant could have mistaken him for someone else. Or maybe he took a coworker out to dinner. Maybe the partner they mentioned was professional, not romantic. But when you start justifying the lies for someone else, you're already halfway through losing them. That night, I sat in bed while he showered, scrolling through old photos of us, trips to the coast, hikes near Spokane, dinner selfies. In every picture, his hand was on me, always touching me. When had that stopped? It was like looking at a ghost of us. He came out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, phone in hand. "Who were you texting?" I asked. He didn't even look up. "Work. We're trying to lock down travel for next quarter." "On a Friday night?" He smirked. Not meanly, just practiced. "It's never over, babe." That was his favorite excuse. It's never over. Work was the reason for everything. Missed dinners, short answers, a second phone he suddenly needed because his work number was getting spammed. Every red flag came wrapped in logic, and I accepted them all. A week later, I stopped being polite about it. I told Rena everything. The restaurant, the phone, the weird changes. She didn't even blink. "You want me to help you check?" Check what? Everything. His socials, the phone, maybe where he actually stays when he travels. I hesitated. "That feels like spying." Rena shrugged. "So does lying to your wife for months." She wasn't wrong. That night, I waited until Carlos fell asleep. He always slept on his side, facing the window, one arm under his pillow. It used to make me feel safe. Now it just made me feel alone. His second phone was on the nightstand. I stared at it for a long time before picking it up. Of course, it was locked. But when I tilted the screen, I saw a preview of a notification. "Tiffany, can't wait to see you again." Counting down already. I swear I stopped breathing. I opened his primary phone, the one he let me see, scrolled through his messages. Nothing. No Tiffany. No unknown numbers. That's when I noticed something else, a hidden folder in his gallery. The kind labeled secure. Password protected. I didn't have the code, but I didn't need it. I already knew. The next morning, I acted normal. Made breakfast. Kissed his cheek before work. He smiled, completely unaware that everything had changed. "Don't forget," he said, "I'm leaving for Seattle Monday. Should be back Wednesday." "Right," I said, pouring coffee. "Long week ahead?" "Yeah," he said. "But after this one, things should slow down." He said it so casually, so confidently. Like he actually believed his own lie. That was when I decided I wasn't going to accuse him anymore. I was going to catch him. That weekend, I planned it out. Rena helped. She's the kind of friend who doesn't ask why, just what time. We agreed to follow him, quietly. See where he stayed. See if Tiffany was real. I booked a motel a few blocks from the hotel Carlos claimed he'd be at. I even took a day off work under the excuse of needing a break. And when Monday came, I told him I had a busy week too. He kissed my forehead before leaving for his flight. I watched from the living room window as he loaded his suitcase into the car. I gave him a 15-minute head start. Then I grabbed my own keys. The drive to Seattle was quiet. 3 hours of my thoughts twisting in circles. I replayed every memory of us, every excuse, every night he'd fallen asleep early. By the time I got to the city, I wasn't sure what I even wanted to find. Proof? Closure? Or maybe just confirmation that I wasn't crazy. I parked across the street from the hotel he'd named. His car wasn't there. I waited. 2 hours passed. Nothing. Then I realized something. If he wasn't at the hotel, where was he? I pulled out my phone and opened the app for our credit card, an app we both had access to. At first, nothing looked off. Gas charges, a few grocery runs. Then, there it was. A charge from a different hotel. A smaller one, only 10 minutes away. I copied the address into my GPS and drove. My stomach was in my throat the whole way. When I turned the corner, I saw it. Carlos's car. Parked neatly by the entrance. I parked half a block away and sat there. Hands gripping the steering wheel so hard they hurt. He'd used the same excuse. Different hotel. Same lie. I waited until evening before getting out. The sky was dark, the street quiet except for passing cars. I pulled up my hood and walked past the front doors, heart hammering. Inside the lobby, the lights were soft and yellow. There was a fireplace, couples sitting together with wine glasses. And then I saw him, Carlos. He was sitting in the lounge, laughing, the kind of laugh I hadn't heard from him in months. Across from him sat a woman, Tiffany. She was real. She was pretty in that effortless way, like she didn't have to try. Shoulder-length brown hair, jeans, a cream sweater. She looked warm, genuine. She smiled at him, reached across the table to touch his hand. He didn't flinch, didn't hide. It was the same hand that used to hold mine. I stood there longer than I should have, watching them, the way he looked at her, the way he leaned in when she spoke. And I realized something awful. He looked happy. Not guilty, not torn, just happy. The kind of happiness I hadn't seen on his face in over a year. I turned around and left before he saw me. In the car, I cried until my chest hurt. Not the loud, dramatic kind of crying, just quiet, exhausted sobs that made my whole body shake. Because there it was, the truth. He wasn't traveling for work. He wasn't tired. He wasn't just distracted. He was living another life. I drove back to Spokane that night. Didn't stop for gas or food. Just kept driving until the sky started to turn pale with morning. When I got home, the house felt different. Every room had a memory I didn't trust anymore. I sat at the kitchen table, the silence heavy. That's where Rena found me the next day. She walked in, saw my face, and didn't ask a single question. She just poured 2 cups of coffee and sat across from me. "Did you see him?" she asked softly. I nodded. "With her?" Another nod. Rena exhaled slowly. "So what now?" I looked at the floor. Now, I get proof, and then I let him bury himself in his own lies. He came home 2 days later, right on schedule. "Hey, babe," he said, smiling. "Miss me?" I smiled back. "Always." He kissed me. I didn't move, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel pain, just certainty. He thought he was in control, but I was already planning his ending. By the time Carlos left for his next business trip, I wasn't even nervous. I was numb. It's weird what your brain does when the heartbreak hits a certain point. You stop waiting for apologies. You stop hoping it was all a misunderstanding. You just want the truth laid out, plain and sharp. And I was ready to see it, however ugly it was. He told me the usual lie. "I'll be gone 3 days. Seattle again. Meetings back to back. Won't have much time to talk." I nodded. "Sounds exhausting." He kissed me on the forehead like he always did before leaving. Like a script he never changed. When his car pulled out of the driveway, I didn't cry this time. I went inside, grabbed my duffel bag, and zipped it shut. This was the trip I was following. No second thoughts, no hesitation. Rena was already waiting for me 2 blocks away. We had this whole thing mapped out. Where to park, what to wear, how not to draw attention. She even brought snacks. "You good?" she asked as I climbed into her car. "Good enough," I said. "Let's go." The drive to Seattle felt longer than usual. I kept picturing Carlos sitting at some fancy dinner with Tiffany, laughing at jokes he'd already told me 100 times. Did she know he was married? Did she even ask? Or did he spin her the same version of himself he gave me when we first met? Charming, reliable, always available, until he wasn't? I almost felt bad for her. Almost. We got there just before sunset. The hotel he'd mentioned in passing wasn't where his car was. We circled around, watching from a nearby parking lot until, there, Rena said. Carlos's car, pulling into a quiet residential neighborhood just outside downtown. It wasn't a hotel. It was a duplex, 2 units, one with string lights over the porch and flower boxes under the windows. Homey. Safe. He parked in front like he belonged there. And then the front door opened. Tiffany. Same woman I saw in the hotel bar weeks ago. Except now, she was barefoot on the porch, wearing leggings and a t-shirt, holding a drink in one hand and smiling like she was greeting her husband. Carlos kissed her. Not a quick hello. A slow, familiar kiss. Then he grabbed his bag from the trunk and followed her inside. Rena's mouth was hanging open. He's not just cheating, she said. He's living a double life. I didn't say anything, just stared at the house. There was a doormat that said, "Home is our happy place." I felt sick. We stayed there for over an hour. Lights came on. Shadows moved behind curtains. At one point, I saw him through the kitchen window, pouring wine, laughing, leaning against the counter like this was his kitchen. I started writing everything down. Time, location, what he wore, who answered the door. It wasn't to catch him anymore. It was to remember. So that when he came home and smiled at me like nothing happened, I wouldn't forget who he really was. On the second night, I came back alone. I told Rena I needed to see it again, by myself. I parked in the same spot, engine off, hands tight on the steering wheel. Through the front window, I could see them watching a movie, her feet on his lap, his arm draped over her shoulder. They looked comfortable. There was a blanket on the couch, a bowl of popcorn between them, a framed photo on the shelf above the fireplace. It was of the 2 of them, smiling, holding hands in front of a waterfall. My stomach dropped. I knew that waterfall. It was in Leavenworth. Carlos told me he went there for work training last fall, said the hotel was too rustic for his taste. But there he was, wearing the same flannel I bought him for Christmas. Holding a woman who wasn't his wife, I took a picture of the picture. Then I drove away. I didn't sleep that night. Carlos came home 3 days later, just like he said he would. He brought flowers. Lilies, my favorite. Or they used to be. Trip went long, he said, tossing his suitcase by the door. But I think we finally smoothed things out with the client. I didn't respond, just took the flowers, placed them in a vase, and smiled. He looked relieved. Like he thought he'd gotten away with something. I asked, "How was the hotel?" He blinked. Standard. Kind of noisy. I nodded. "Weird, you didn't show up on our rewards account." There was a pause, half a second, barely noticeable. But I saw it. "Oh," he said. "I stayed somewhere smaller this time. Booked it direct." I said nothing. Just gave a soft, That night, while he slept, I printed every photo I'd taken. The kiss on the porch. The 2 of them through the window. The framed picture above the fireplace. I even printed the Airbnb listing that matched Tiffany's address. His name was on a review from months ago. I put everything in a folder and slid it under the bed. It wasn't time yet. Not until I had everything. The next day, I called Tiffany. I didn't text. I didn't hint. I went straight to the point. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Hello?" "Hi, my name is Marisol. I'm Carlos's wife." Silence. I could hear her breathing. "Then you're his what?" "Wife," I repeated. 5 years. We live in Spokane. He's been cheating on both of us." Tiffany was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "He told me you were his ex, that you moved out last year." My throat tightened. I sleep next to him every night. And then, finally, her voice cracked. Oh my God. We talked for over an hour, compared dates, stories, lies. He told her he couldn't post pictures because of work policy. He told me he deleted Instagram because of privacy concerns. He told her he had no family nearby. He told me his mom hated Seattle. Every lie he told her, he twisted into something else for me, and we both believed him. By the end of the call, Tiffany was crying. "I'm so sorry," she said. "You didn't know," I replied. "Neither did I. Until now." She asked if she could call me again. I said yes. And just like that, the woman I thought was her became someone just like me. A person who'd been lied to. Loved someone who didn't exist. Carlos still didn't know. He was in the shower, singing like nothing had changed. But the water was running out. The truth was about to flood everything. and when it did, I'd be ready. Some people scream when they find out. Some throw things, burn photos, pack bags. I didn't do any of that. I waited. Carlos thought he was in control, still playing the part. Still stringing together those little lies like pearls on a necklace he was hoping wouldn't snap. But I had already talked to Tiffany. I had already seen their home. I had already cried all the tears I was going to cry. So the last thing I owed him was the truth. Mine, not his. It was a Sunday night when I finally did it. He was on the couch, feet up, flipping through channels like nothing was wrong. I sat down next to him, folder in my lap, and said, "Can we talk?" He muted the TV and turned toward me, smiling. "Of course. What's up?" I opened the folder and handed him the top photo. Carlos blinked, then looked closer. It was the picture of him and Tiffany on her porch. That long kiss. His hand on her hip. He didn't say a word, just slowly flipped to the next page. Another picture. Through the window. Them sitting close on the couch, sharing popcorn. Then the Airbnb receipt. Then the waterfall photo framed above her fireplace. His face didn't change, but his neck flushed red. I could see it spreading. He finally spoke. "This isn't what it looks like." I laughed once. "Sharp. Carlos, come on." He licked his lips. "I mean, it's complicated. You're making assumptions without knowing the full story." "Then explain it," I said, calm, flat. "Walk me through how you accidentally ended up renting a place 10 minutes from her house while she calls you her partner and meets your so-called coworkers at that Italian restaurant." Silence. I leaned forward. "No? Nothing? Because I already talked to her." His head snapped up. "You what?" "I called her. We compared notes. Spoiler, she didn't know about me either." He opened his mouth, closed it, then muttered, "She's lying." I raised my eyebrows. "She's lying about you being married?" He stared at me, and that's when I saw it. The flicker of panic. The walls closing in. He wasn't sorry. He wasn't heartbroken. He was caught. "You know what hurts the most?" I said quietly. "It's not the cheating. It's not even that you loved someone else." His mouth opened slightly, about to deny it. "Don't," I said, holding up a hand. "Don't insult us both." He looked down, I continued. "It's that you were happy there. I saw it in your face. The way you looked at her, like she was the only person in the room." Carlos stayed quiet. "That used to be me," I said. Still, no response. "You could have just left," I added. "You didn't have to tear me in half behind my back. You could have just said, 'I don't love you anymore.'" He whispered, "I didn't want to hurt you." I laughed again, this time almost sad. "You didn't want to hurt yourself. Big difference." He tried, of course. Tried to apologize, tried to explain how things got out of control, how he didn't mean for it to happen, how it started casual, and how he thought he could balance both lives until he figured things out. "I was going to tell you eventually," he said. I stared at him. "You've been living with her, Carlos." "It wasn't like that. She had a framed photo of the two of you in her living room." That shut him up. By the end of the conversation, he was sitting with his head in his hands, still spinning half lies, hoping one of them would stick, but I wasn't buying it. Not anymore. I stood up. "Pack your things." He looked up slowly. "Wait, tonight?" "Yes, tonight." "I thought maybe we could talk more." "We did talk. I just didn't cry or scream, so you think there's more to say." "But the lease, you can crash at your girlfriend's house, the one with the string lights on the porch and the happy little doormat." He didn't argue after that, just stood, walked into the bedroom, and started packing. I sat on the couch while he moved around. Didn't help. Didn't say a word. Just listened to the sounds of drawers closing, hangers clinking, zippers pulling shut. He left around midnight. Didn't look back. The silence afterward was the loudest thing I've ever lived through. Not just the silence in the house, the silence of no more excuses, no more lies, no more pretending we were something we weren't. I didn't answer when he texted a week later. "Can we talk? I just want to explain some things I didn't get to say." I didn't respond. Tiffany called me once more. She told me she ended it too. "I couldn't keep lying to myself," she said. "Not after what he did to you. I should have asked more questions. I feel so stupid." I told her she wasn't stupid. She believed someone who looked her in the eyes and smiled while lying straight through his teeth. So did I. It's been 4 months. I'm still in the same house, at least for now. The walls feel lighter. The bed feels bigger. The air feels honest. Some days, I still wake up expecting his car in the driveway. I still catch myself about to text him something funny I saw, but I stop. Because I know now, you can't go back to someone who never really showed up. Carlos didn't just cheat on me. He rewrote me out of our story. And when someone does that, your only option is to close the book and walk away. I'm not angry anymore. Not even sad most days. I'm just done carrying someone else's lies like they were mine to hold. He lost someone who would have done anything for him. I lost someone who was never really mine. And I think, somehow, I came out ahead. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. If you want to share your stories, please comment below. Additionally, what is your opinion on the poster's decision?